to Sunday. It is November the 14th. It is 10:28 a.m. in the morning. And this is my Sunday episode where I do my best to assist you by providing tips, things that can help you to hopefully astral project. Most of this, I believe, it's just a way to perhaps inspire you to maybe stimulate the things inside of you that will help you to leave your body if that's what you wish to do. So that's what Sundays are for. So today I wanted to deal with one of the most frequent questions I get. And that question is, how can I get over the fear? Now, this is something I have dealt with in previous episodes, but as I've said in those episodes, I said that I would continue to cover this topic, to continue to talk about this topic because it is important. This seems to be a huge barrier to people. Honestly, though, and I want to, when I talk about my own experiences, guys, I want to kind of explain this a little bit as well. When I talk about my own experiences early on, this is only to let you know that I went through the same struggles that you went through, or that you are going through presently. Those of you that are fearful in these things, I want you to know, even as a person who's been doing this for 40 plus years, not only did I go through those struggles as well, but sometimes I am also still afraid. Not as much as I used to be, definitely not as much as I used to be, but there are times. So I want you to know that you're not alone in having these fears. So even though there wasn't an internet to spread rumors about evil entities attacking people or following people back to their bodies, back when I was coming up in the late 70s. In fact, my first experience was around 1978. So no, there wasn't an internet, but I have and still do have a very active imagination. And imagination can be both a blessing and it can be kind of a curse at times if it's not kept in check. Literally, it can be your worst enemy at times. This is definitely the case with myself. I would advise anyone who fears things like not being able to find your way back into your body or dark entities attacking you to consider where you got the information from and if that source has actually experienced the astral plane. You also have to consider the mental state of the person giving you that information. And this can be difficult because many people read things on subreddit and they will assume when they're hearing this information that this person is completely stable and has a rational mind and has dealt with all the things that I've talked about before in regards to dealing with your fears. And they have gone out there with as clean a slate as possible. But that isn't always the case. Many of us don't understand how powerful our minds are out there and how they can actually manifest our worst fears when we're on the astral plane. say your fears out loud. This is something that is so beneficial. Take the time. If you are afraid and there are specific fears that you have about, I don't know, some dark entity coming back and possessing you or whatever, say those things out loud so you can hear them. This takes away their power. Okay? So listen to them and really try and use your intellectual skills, your intellectual mind to think if these things are actually rational, or are these things something that you saw in some scary movie at some point? Because I can tell you, when I was a kid, scary films, things on television, these things influenced me at times. So it's important to think about where you get this information. So, as I've said before, this isn't necessarily easy, tackling these fears. It isn't. This is not necessarily an easy thing. We've been conditioned in this society to believe that certain things are frightening. For example, darkness. Darkness is a frightening thing, and light is this positive, beautiful, wonderful thing. But what if both of these things are neither positive or negative, but simply the opposite of each other? That's it. Open your mind, guys. That's all I am asking you to do. Open your mind about this. So that's my little talk on fear. What I also wanted to do today is do something that I wasn't able to do in one of my previous episodes that I was telling you guys that I was going to do, and that is sharing an experience that happened to me that was literally so short that I really didn't feel that it could be a full-on episode. But today I wanted to share it with you on Sunday. And I'm going to read basically directly from my notes here and then talk a little bit about it after I finish reading from the notes I made that day. So this experience happened 11/5/21. It was exhilarating because I felt myself picked up and flown someplace. I was able to easily open my eyes. I think I was in a small classroom. It was dark and I fell on the floor. Now, I want to cut in here to say that when I arrived in this place in the beyond body, I wasn't feeling balanced or stable at the time. I felt very unstable and I felt like I wasn't able to maintain my balance. Now, if you've listened to the beyond body experiences before that I've talked about, you may have heard me talk about the fact that I stumbled, that it took time for me to get my footing. This definitely happened in this case. I wasn't able to do that, and at one point I even fell basically on my butt. I fell, and let me continue with my notes here. I said a little help, and cutting in again, when I say a little help, I'm calling out to my guides, hey, a little help, can you give me some assistance here? What happened next is a chain extended out of nowhere. Now, this was very interesting to me. Guys, I want you to imagine that you are looking up in space, just looking up at your ceiling or whatever, and a linked chain extends out of nowhere and comes down, and you are able to actually grab this chain and hold on to it. That is exactly what happened here in this case. It was very, 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 very interesting. Really cool to actually see that. And immediately after I said a little help, this chain extended basically out of nowhere. But holding on to it, I was still unable to get up. At one point, I think I was able to turn on a light, but I'm not sure of the exact surroundings. Now, I felt, cutting in again, I felt like I was in a sort of a classroom setting, and it was dark, but and I think there were like tiny lights or whatever that you could turn on, almost like the old kind of oil lamps or whatever that they used to have. And I was, I believe, able to cut on a light. I felt myself having to scoot along the floor at first. And honestly, I thought I was going to be snatched back to the 3D, but I was able to maintain my footing in this reality and actually get up. And this linked chain, I believe, did help me to stay here or to not be pulled back. I noticed after I had gotten up that there was a huge window and I could see people sitting outside. I stepped out of this little classroom setting and I could actually feel temperature, guys. Now, this was a big deal to me because I can't remember actually sensing in the past, sensing if a place was warm or cold, but this place I could feel. It was very warm. I could feel the wind. I felt the wind as being warm. It felt like I was almost in a tropical kind of environment. I have been overseas before to places like Thailand and the Philippines, so I know that feeling of getting kind of warm air. And it honestly, it wasn't too hot and it wasn't too cold. It was right in the middle. It was just wonderful. It was like a perfect summer day. I could also feel the wood underneath my feet. This was some sort of wooden platform, and there was a man going into the door as I was leaving. Now, at this point, I held the door open for this man who was going in, and he stopped, and he seemed to say something very angrily toward me. Now, I'm not sure. It's interesting. Sometimes when you make judgments, he said something, I didn't understand what he said. I had no idea. To be honest with you, it sounded like a dog, like a bark or something like that. It was really weird. But I've been to some weird places, some strange places. Or I should say unique places, and the language and the way that beings express themselves is way different than the way we do it. So I don't know that I can assume that he was angry. I was kind of taken aback by the way he said something to me, or said whatever he said to me. So I was just like, okay, I'm just trying to be nice and open this door for you. And the other thing I noted was that this guy sort of reminded me of, I don't know how many of you know who Stan Lee is, the guy who did the Marvel characters and created a lot of them and was in a lot of the Marvel films. He reminded me of Stan Lee and the look that he had, just to give you something to picture. So soon after this, I returned. After that person barked at me, I don't know, and that was it. But the significant things, two significant things I took from this was the chain extending out of thin air and the feeling of warmth, the feeling of temperature. Oh, it was amazing. And I could feel the wooden plank under me. I could feel it. I could feel that it was solid. Guys, these things, these places that I go to, again, they are realities, a different type of reality, but they are reality all the same. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on another journey with me, and until next time, take care.